Alice had heard of Lauza in her childhood, a tale whispered by her grandmother in low, cautious tones. The story was simple, yet unsettling: an old woman wronged, who could transform into a massive owl, seeking vengeance on those who crossed her. Most people dismissed it as an old folktale, but on this night, Alice found herself rethinking that notion. It was a cool autumn evening, and Alice had just finished a grueling night shift at the hospital. Exhaustion clung to her, and the long train ride back home seemed to stretch out endlessly. The sky, usually comforting with its twinkling stars, was ominously clouded, the moon barely visible through the thick haze. The wind picked up, rustling the trees in a way that made her uneasy. Alice stepped off the train at the small rural station, one of the last stops before home. She had taken this path many times, but tonight something felt off. She started her walk along the narrow road that led to her parents' house. It was a shortcut through the woods, a path she'd taken countless times growing up. The towering trees on either side of the dirt trail seemed to stretch higher than usual, their branches clawing at the sky. A distant hoot echoed through the woods, followed by the sound of wings beating the air. It was common to hear owls at night, but this sound was different: louder, deeper, more menacing. Alice quickened her pace, her heartbeat matching the rhythm of her footsteps. The trees rustled again, louder this time, and she caught a glimpse of something large moving above her in the canopy. Looking up, she froze. Perched on a branch not far from her was an enormous owl, its eyes glowing a piercing yellow in the dim light. It stared at her, unblinking. A shiver ran down Alice's spine. The owl's size was unnatural. It was almost the height of a person, with feathers black as midnight and talons that looked like they could rip through flesh effortlessly. She told herself to keep walking, to ignore it, but something in its gaze held her in place. The owl let out a low, guttural sound, almost like a growl, and its wings spread wide. Without warning, it swooped down, gliding silently through the air, just over Alice's head. She ducked instinctively, her heart racing as she stumbled backward. That's when she heard it, the unmistakable sound of a woman laughing. It was soft at first, almost like a whisper carried on the wind, but it grew louder, more distinct. The laughter was cruel, mocking. Alice's throat tightened. She began to run, her feet pounding the dirt path, the forest around her closing in as the laughter followed her. She could hear the owl's wings above, circling, as if it were playing with her. The sound of its talons scraping against the branches sent chills through her body. Her mind raced. Lauza, the story her grandmother had told her. A witch who could transform into an owl to torment those who had wronged her. Alice had never wronged anyone, not that she knew of, but maybe this wasn't about her. Maybe it was about her family or someone else in the village. But that didn't matter now. All that mattered was escaping. She could see the edge of the woods up ahead, the clearing where her parents' house stood. Safety was so close, but the laughter grew louder, now interspersed with words in Spanish, ancient and twisted. Lauza, she thought. Could it be true? Alice's legs felt heavy, but fear pushed her forward. She sprinted toward the clearing ahead, where her parents' house stood, its lights a beacon in the darkness. The witch's laugh followed her, ringing in her ears. She burst through the door, slamming it shut behind her, locking it quickly. Her parents rushed into the hallway, alarmed by her frantic state. As if in response, a loud screech sounded from outside. The windows rattled as something large brushed against them. The house seemed to hum with tension, the lights flickering. Through the thin walls, Alice could hear the flutter of wings, the scrape of talons on glass, and then the laughter came again, closer this time, more menacing. The night dragged on, the sound of wings and laughter surrounding the house, but no one dared move. They sat in silence, hearts pounding, waiting for dawn. When the first light of morning finally crept through the windows, the noises stopped. The house was quiet, but Alice knew deep down that this was only the beginning. Lauza would be back. and next time, she might not escape.